Who's the greatest UFC fighter? Are you allowed to say, in your opinion? It's tough for you to say because you do this, but who do you think is the greatest of the fighters?
There's a lot of arguments for who's the greatest of all time. You know, John Jones, most people would say is the greatest of all time, never lost. There's certainly a really good argument for that. There's another argument for Georges St. Pierre. I always leave in B.J. Penn in his prime, Anderson Silva in his prime. Mighty Mouse. People forget about Mighty Mouse because, unfortunately, he's a smaller guy. He's 125 pounds, flyweight champion. He's one of the greatest expressions of mixed martial arts I've ever seen. I think to this day.
And Khabib? What about Khabib?
Khabib's fantastic. But if you looked at like accomplishments in terms of championship fights, Khabib retired 29-0, but he didn't have as many world championship fights. And probably never lost a round. They say he might have lost to Gleison Tebow. He might have lost to him.
A round.
He might have lost a round. And that was a controversial fight where people think that Gleison Tebow could have even got the decision in that fight. I'd have to go back and watch it again to make a decision. But
they're great athletes.
Oh, the best athletes in the world. And the most dangerous sport in terms of like, I always call it high-level problem solving with dire physical consequences.
Yeah, it's just brutal.
That's what fighting is.
You know, I never forget. So there was a fighter named James Toney.
Oh, yeah. I love James Toney.
He fought as a very light fighter, and he ended up as a heavyweight. I mean, this guy went through everything. He was almost like a lightweight.
He went from middleweight all the way up to heavyweight. Yeah. And Peter Vander Holyfield as a heavyweight.
And he was a real fighter.
Oh, yeah.
So James Toney, and I think it was, George
St. Pierre?
St. Pierre. I think it was him. Who did he fight? James Toney.
No, James Toney didn't fight George St. Pierre.
He fought a UFC fighter.
Yeah, Randy Couture fought James Toney.
Was it?
But
Randy
that was like
Couture,
an easy
maybe?
fight. That was a very easy fight. Randy Couture just took him down and
strangled him.
It was the
most, and he's half the size, and he just. Once he got to the ankles, in fact, the announcer said, "It's over."
Yeah,
and he put him to sleep.
Took him down, mounted him, strangled him. It was
and
pretty
James,
quick.
he was talking big because he was much bigger. He was a pretty big guy.
James just wanted to make some money.
You think so?
Yeah,
but I never forgot it. It was over very quickly, and he was lying, sleeping on the mat, and he was talking. You know, he was doing the Muhammad Ali stuff, but it didn't work out. But I remember
he sold the fight.
Yeah, that was Couture probably.
Yeah, it was Couture. George never fought a boxer in an MMA fight. If he did, he would kill them.
Was he one of the greatest?
Yes, unquestionably. That's the argument. There's like a handful of guys you can make the argument is the greatest of all time. People forget about Anderson Silva. In his prime, he was unstoppable. But that's the thing is, and then there's Fedor Emelianenko who fought in Pride. In his prime, he was unstoppable. There's this,
and you have a couple now that are pretty good.
Oh, we've got so many now. Alex Pereira.
Correct.
There's an argument that he's the top pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now.
He's looking very good, yeah.
It's unbelievable. But it's like fighters can only compete at that level for so many years. And so, in my opinion, you have to judge them at their very peak. You can't judge them when they're hanging on and still fighting. You can't judge them when they're coming up. You got to judge them in that championship peak. And that championship peak, there's a handful of guys that you would consider at the very top.
If they stopped a little bit sooner...
Yeah,
some of them would have had, I mean, there are a couple of that you just mentioned without mentioning names. If they stopped, they had the perfect, they were unbelievable. And then at a certain age, they start getting knocked out, right?
Yes, it's unfortunate, but the thing is that same belief in themselves that lets them become a champion makes them think that they can do it long past the time that they actually can.
Well, Anderson Silva was essentially unbeatable. Mm-hmm. And then he lost a close one. Then all of a sudden
he got knocked out. He got knocked out by Chris Weidman.
Right.
He was kind of clowning in that fight famously, and Chris Weidman had a vicious left hook, knocked him out. And then they fought a second time, and he broke his leg on Chris Weidman.
Right, that's right.
And after that fight, he was kind of never the same because that leg break injury, which Conor McGregor had, there's quite a few fighters. Weidman actually wound up having the same injury, ironically. There's only been like
you're never the same because you can't
never the same. Well, you can. Weidman is still kicking with that leg. You can, but psychologically, when you throw a kick and your leg snaps in half and you're in agony for a year, right? You have to get surgery. You have to get bolts and plates to keep your leg together, and then it takes forever for it to heal.
It always amazed me how the kicker, I mean, you have those cases, but the kicker will do tremendous damage to somebody's leg, but their leg doesn't seem to get damaged, isn't it?
It does get damaged. It hurts
more than you think.
Yeah, but your shin, your shin gets very numb after a while. And guys that are really good kickers, they're kicking the thigh and they're kicking the calf. They're kicking soft areas, and they're slamming this hard, numb shin.
Right.
Their shin gets all these like micro fractures all over the shin, and it calcifies.
Oh, wow.
Like these guys can kick baseball bats. You ever see them break baseball bats with their shins?
No, I've never
It's
seen
crazy. Some guys can do 2 baseball bats. someone will hold the baseball bat and they just kick right through them.
But see,
their
I
shins
watch your
almost get numb.
enthusiasm now, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why you're good at what. That's why nobody does this better. Without the enthusiasm, forget it.
Well, it has to be authentic. Like that. I mean, the only reason why I do MMA commentary is because I'm very interested in it for real. I don't have to manufacture it. I'm very interested. So I think
you love going in there after the fight, and they're sweating all over you. They're slopping all over you. You're
they
beautiful.
bleed on me.
They're bleeding.
Sometimes their noses
does that bother you a little bit? Yeah,
no.
No. 2 weeks ago with the guy I never saw
Khalil Roundtree, yeah.
More stuff came out of his nose.
Yes, it was pretty nasty, but no, I'm very used to it. I just wanted him to be able to express himself.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
You've done a great job.
So back to you. Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
Let me see. What do you got
there? Right over here.
Oh, it's a tiny little mark.
It zicked right there.
Yeah. But it healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little. It's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters.
No, you didn't get cauliflower.
No. It was sort of like a top shot. Mm-hmm. The point of the bullet was a little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit, but it makes me a tougher guy. You know the fighters. The fighters love their. Bo Nickal, he's a great fighter.
Yeah, I love Bo Nickal.
How's he going to do? I think he's terrific.
He's great. He's a fantastic fighter.
He was almost like undefeated in college.
He's a fantastic wrestler and one of the best mixed martial artists.
When is he fighting again?
He's fighting in Madison Square Garden in November.
Oh, that's going to be after the election?
Yep.
So I'll either go as president or I'll be depressed and I won't bother going. I think they're having a fight right after.
One of the things that was fascinating